Oh my God. The pinch is the worst argument I've ever heard in my life. You're holding a guy on your bench for a pinch.
He's a boomer bust. Wide receiver 4 being priced is like a wide
He
receiver
boomed
7.
once.
Yeah. Now we have Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart. Completely
now we
different
feel like we're in
quarterbacks.
a situation here.
Draft all the Darius Slayton you want.
You don't have to draft really all that much of them. You got him down here at wide receiver number 79.
Remember how I just was like, hey, Jake, I can't hate on you preferring Cooper Kupp in the year 2025 because he's a wide receiver 51. And now I bring up the wide receiver 80 and Jake's trying to have a problem with this. Yes, he's going as the wide receiver 80. I understand it. It's a sleeper show, Jake.
The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Code Mayo. Underdog right now, get your deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And that's helpful because in best ball drafts this NFL season at Underdog, there is over $22 million to win. You may as well get some of it. You can't do that unless you use Code Mayo, unless you already have an account, which then doesn't really do you any good. But if you're new, Code Mayo, get you that Mondays, all right? And then maybe you can tip me like $5 if you win $1 million, something like that. Ian and Jake are back to talk about the biggest sleepers of the 2025 redraft NFL season in fantasy football. Fellas, we've already done the running back rankings, and we've already done some interesting names of guys that are tough to rank. If you're looking for that, you can just check out the Pat Mayo Experience pod feed or just sub to Mayo Media Network. In fact, how about this? You sub to Mayo Media Network right now. In the comment section, you give me your biggest sleeper of the fantasy football season, and you'll get into a draw to win a free driver, a PXG Black Ops driver. I'll be giving that away the day after the British Open concludes. So like 4 days from now, I'll be giving that to potentially one of you if you win the draw. Ian, I'm going to start with you with your first sleeper, and I'll put you in the comment section later so you can win a free driver.
That's what I'm talking about, Pat. I appreciate you, man. I actually did get a new driver recently. Helped that slice a little bit. Maybe not as much as we need, but hey, that's what another one.
I got a new driver recently too, and it brought back my slice.
Oh, funny how that works. Just as long as you have something to blame the slice on, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day.
It's the shaft weight. I primarily play with a stiff shaft, and for whatever reason, they put on a flex shaft, and it's too light, and I just swing way too hard with it.
Pause.
We're just stepping right past that he plays with a stiff shaft. Like we're just like just breeze past that one.
Talking about what kind of loads can you handle, you know?
Yeah, in my personal life, I play with the extra stiff shaft. So, I'm sure as I get older, that won't be the case anymore.
First sleeper, I'm going with Dolphins RB Jaylen Wright. Guys, it's a situation where I know he didn't exactly boom in a major way as a rookie, but he was expected to be and was behind Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert. Latterman is gone. That old geriatric dude is now playing for the Raiders, 1 year removed from scoring, 20-plus touchdowns as Achane's, second banana all the way back in 2023. And Jaylen Wright, for as much as he didn't get a ton going last year, low-key did have the best advanced efficiency numbers of any Dolphins running back on an offense that, we saw sputter and really get bad performances for large parts of the season from the main characters in Achane and Tyreek Hill, amongst others. So, again, not going to completely hold that against them when we've seen what they've done this offseason, which is pretty much nothing at the position. Again, mentioned that Mostert was gone. They also didn't re-sign Jeff Wilson. The only free agent addition was Alexander Madison on a 1 year, $2 million deal. And then we have sixth-rounder Ollie Gordon, who, yes, had a good 2023 season. I'm sure there's plenty of super fans out there because he's a rookie running back. And
he's sixth round.
Yeah, but Pat, no ball, man. All these sixth rounders are going to be amazing this year. All right, that's just the way it works.
I have heard that about every rookie. That there's no way they could ever fail. I wish I had known that back when I've done drafts for the past 20 years. That I should have just drafted the all rookie team because obviously they're all the best players in the league.
Make sure you guys subscribe to my draft guide. Every single running back is just awesome. Great people and even better football players. But look, again, with Jaylen Wright, I think it's a situation where, God forbid, something does happen to Devon Achane. We have seen him battle that injury bug a little bit 2 years ago, and then he had the high ankle sprain and concussion last year as well, albeit didn't miss any time. I think the handcuff upside is there for Jaylen Wright. Like, again, God forbid something happens to Achane, you're going to see Wright on the cover of every single waiver wire article. But there's also this potential for him to be this flex caliber play, even though he's being priced outside the top 50 running backs right now. So again, the Tyler Algiers of the world, Zach Charbonnet, Trey Benson, I get it. If something happens to their starter, we probably feel a little bit better about them just taking over and being this RB1. But I really do think, Jake, that Wright not only has this great handcuff upside, he could also carve out, 200K carries, targets combined on the season, and an offense that's only 1 year removed from ranking second in scoring. What am I missing, Jake?
Nothing. I actually have him for 170, almost 180 touches, and that puts him in the RB3 range. I'm with you on Jaylen Wright. It's funny that people so quickly we want to talk up all the rookies, but we forgot that last year we're talking up this rookie as somebody with like James Cook ability and the upside that he takes the number 2 role immediately as a rookie, which is what's funny about this. It was a miserable season by any stretch of the imagination for Jaylen Wright. And I'm glad you brought up Ollie Gordon because we talk about him 2 years ago coming out of the draft. He probably would have been a second or third rounder. Maybe, depending on how the draft fell, even earlier than that. Doubtful, but he was coming off an amazing season. But that's the point. Is like everybody wants to only look positively at Gordon and negatively at Wright, which makes no sense. If Gordon somehow takes that Mostert near the goal line role, and that's just not Wright's thing. The biggest thing about what you said, which I agree with completely, is that even if we're wrong about Wright getting the timeshare piece, if Achane goes down, he's not being replaced by Ollie Gordon. He's being replaced by Wright.
Jaylen Wright right now is going at pick 162. So by my math, that means he's not even getting drafted, Jake?
Not even close in most drafts, and it's absurd, honestly, when you start talking about backup running backs and these opportunities that they have, especially what I just said, is like Gordon doesn't replicate Achane in any stretch of the imagination. Wright does.
Mm-hmm. Trying to see who else is going now. I was just looking at running backs. I was like, man, I can't believe these guys are going so low.
People are drafting second defenses before they take Wright.
Smart. Play the matchups. You got to play for week 17, Jake.
You should be going hard in the paint for these running backs that late, too. Again, I kind of mentioned on the last running back show. Check it out if you guys haven't heard already. But once you do get past a certain point in the draft, I mean, the wide receiver 60 and on, like those are just pure darts. Okay, we get a Puka every once in a freaking decade out here. But it's the running back position, as we see every single year. That's the one where we find the diamonds in the roughs, the handcuffs who all of a sudden become, again, the guys who you're spending everything on the waiver wire. So I know sometimes you can kind of get to the end and it feels weird to be taking these 5 or 6 running backs in a row, but I want my entire bench, if possible, to be chock full with running backs. I don't need a second quarterback or a tight end or, God forbid, a DST. If you're listening to Jake and I right now, I already know you're not playing in leagues with ridiculous kickers either. So again, not only is the price right for Wright, but as Jake was saying, really does have multiple, means of potentially getting there and giving us some nice production.
What makes a little sense to me in terms of roster construction too, to piggyback on what you just said, Ian, is just because, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to use an example. I was just looking at a name on Jake's list. I was going to use him as an example. Maybe that doesn't make a ton of sense. Let's say there's a Bills receiver that goes down and Khalil Shakir ends up being more of the target monster than we think that he's projected to be for this year. He's the wide receiver 1 on that team. He's having a great year. And then all of a sudden he gets hurt. Whoever steps into the quote Khalil Shakir role isn't guaranteed to get the touches Shakir is. So holding on to like kind of shitty wide receivers doesn't make any sense. It's not like there's handcuff wide receivers.
No, and a good example of that is just last year. Everybody's excited for Juwan Jennings, but at that time, Jennings replicated Ayuk. Pearsall more replicates Debo, and now that's why we're having this whole conversation this year. And I know it's not 1-for-1 in either one. I'm just saying the roles in that offense additionally. But when we were trying to figure this out last year, and everybody was like, "Oh, don't forget about cowing and stuff like that," it was like, no, it's very simple. Like the role fits the role. Jennings to Ayuk. If Ayuk stayed healthy and Debo got hurt, Jennings wasn't going to be Debo, to your point. It's like it doesn't always necessarily mean that like not only have the opportunity, but they fill the role properly.
And one of the reasons, Ian, that some of these like stud receivers end up getting so many targets because they're really good and the guy replacing them isn't.
Yeah. And I mean, look, NFL teams, as much as they might shift towards the pass, a little bit more if their, stud running back goes down, you still have a certain number of plays that you are going to be running the football, and you can't just, again, get away from the only running back left standing there for you. So, yeah, we're going to see San Francisco. Man, look at what George Kittle does when Debo and I are coming out. Like they're going to start force feeding, one specific guy versus, the Jacob Coings of the world, like Jake said. So again, we see this every year. There's a reason why we get the league winners as these random backup running backs. Last season in the fantasy playoffs, Tajay Spears was the RB5. Amir Abdullah was the RB8 in the fantasy playoffs last year. So moral of the story, guys, let's draft some Amir Abdullah.
Jake, sleeper number 1 for you. I'm looking at the list. I know who you're going to say. And I didn't realize we were playing in one of those leagues where you're trying to score as few points as possible.
Oh.
Why? Because Cooper Kupp? Is that who you're talking about?
Washed. Get out of here. Washed.
everybody's talking about Kubiak and what he's going to do for this offense and everything that's going to be amazing. But and we're talking about, and we just did on the show, deservedly so, Walker fitting his outside zone scheme, be rushing. We also need to talk about what Kubiak does in the passing game. And if you look at the Saints last year, it was, I forget the name that they came up, the Yankee concept. It was the one where it was like the 2 tight ends on the one side. But the thing was, is if you watch Kubiak and what he does and what he tried to do while Derek Carr was healthy, it was basically get one wide receiver broken free downfield, get the other broken free over the intermediate, and kind of almost use the tight ends just to go take up space, or the running backs to kind of pull the middle of the secondary or the linebackers in out of the backfield. And it's basically like a 2 wide receiver concept. I know part of that is the makings of the Saints offense, but I'm saying if we're examining Kubiak to this level, and we're ignoring the fact of like what he does for 2 wide receivers, the second wide receiver is Kupp, and I don't need him to be this big downfield threat. That's actually not even really whoever Cooper Kupp has been, but he can still work the intermediate area of the field. And I know people will come with the separation numbers and all that type of stuff, but like at this point, if Kupp is even 90% of what he was, he's going to get usage in this offense in that realm. How Kubiak uses his second wide receiver with sending Smith and Jigba deeper and playing outside more this year than he has before, and Cooper Kupp will walk into 110, 120 targets. Staying healthy this year would be a question of it. But all that being said is, you say washed, which that's what everybody's saying, and because of the disappointment and how frustrated we've now been with Cooper Kupp over the past couple seasons, nobody wants him anymore. And that's why he's kind of fallen into this value situation. You're drafting Cooper Kupp to not even just sit on your bench. He's not even one of your first options on your bench. He's just down there that like, hey, if Cooper Kupp somehow is even a wide receiver 4, you're benefiting.
Didn't realize that Kubiak was all in on unexciting whites.
Who is this guy's PR manager? I mean, give that dude a raise. Kubiak goes bonkers against the Cowboys and the Panthers, literally the 2 worst scoring defenses in the NFL last year. Yes, I know the Saints suffered some injuries around here. I still like they were the only team too. Maybe they indeed were the worst, but to see that offense just become one of the worst in the NFL from weeks 3 through 18, but everyone to go, look at those first 2 weeks of September really is, humorous to me, if you will. But look, I mean, in this entire show, we're picking guys late enough where it's like, it's hard for me to call Jake too crazy, just in general, but specifically here, wide receiver 51, it's like, all right. I will say Cooper Kupp, I mean, we haven't seen him be fully healthy in quite some time. 2 years ago, we had the August hamstring injury that eventually caused them to, spend the first 4 weeks of the season on the bench. And last year, after he has freaking 21 targets in week 1, unfortunately gets that grade 3 high ankle sprain in week 2. So maybe these things also just happen to 32-year-old veterans a bit more often in the NFL. So I will admit I haven't gone, too much for Cooper Kupp. I do think his skill set just overlaps a little bit too much with JSN in an offense that, maybe won't have a great quarterback depending on what version of Sam Darnold we get. But, the path is there. And Jake, I do wonder if there's potential, for Kupp to kind of maybe not be wide receiver 2, but this year's version of Chris Godwin-esque.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I would say Adam Thielen and just give him wide receiver 3 value. But I thought you were about to. Pat was going to just shut the show down. I thought you were going to say a chance that Valdez-Scantling ends up being that deep threat guy. I thought that's where you were going with it.
I would rather have Valdez-Scantling because I'm going to give you I'm only contributing
best ball
to this. No, not for best ball. I at least want a guy that if I put him in, maybe he can score more than 8 points. I can just see Cooper Kupp being dead on the field. He's on the don't draft list. Give me Rashid Shaheed. Coming back off the injury in that offense, I think he's like better than Chris Olave, Mr. Concussion at this point. Wow. And just hit him deep down the field. Dude is going to be good. And he's going after Cooper Kupp in drafts. At least if Shaheed sucks, you can cut him. You are going to get enamored with Cooper Kupp. Oh, my God. He had 13 targets and 1 catch this week. But look at the opportunity for Cooper Kupp. Oh, yeah, he runs as fast as Pat Mayo does right now. Perfect. We want that guy in the NFL. No. Let's take a speedster, a big play guy, and someone who, if he does evolve into an upgrade in target share, especially deep downfield, that he can just have some banger weeks for you.
His quarterback is Tyler Shuck. End of sentence.
You've got Sam Darnold out here. He's not throwing to Justin Jefferson anymore.
No, but he was fine until the end of the year, which is that, that's part of it too. Like everybody waxes positively about Kubiak, like Ian just said, and we're just ignoring the fact that the Seahawks offensive line is still a major question and that Sam Darnold was a major question when he was dealing with all that pressure at the end of last year and folded like Sam Darnold does. Point being, Kupp doesn't cost you anything. I think you were doing it tongue-in-cheek, Pat, or maybe just being 100% truthful, but point being is I think you just laid something in there, which is a strategy that I think people don't do well, is they get beholden to these players. So like you just said, 13 targets and 1 catch. But like, let's say he gets 8 targets the first 3 weeks, 2 catches, 3 catches, 2 catches. Move the hell on. I think that's the part is like people don't use their bench properly in fantasy. They waste spots on players like Cooper Kupp. If he's not Cooper Kupp, if he hasn't bounced back, move on after 2 or 3 games. You don't need to hold him and hoping that week 7 is going to magically turn it around.
Next up,
one big thing real quick, last point on Kupp. It concerns me how quickly and willingly the Rams were to be like, yeah, see ya, man.
Yeah.
That's the
You're
one part
fucking washed. Beat it. You got kicked out of the daily prayer circle with Matt Stafford.
Look, you had the opportunity to get Devontae Adams, and they did, and they took that opportunity. Like, I would swap Kupp for Adams any day of the week, let's be honest.
Not going to lie to you, Adams kind of looked a bit washed last year, too.
Adams was getting freaking targets from Aaron Rodgers and putting up top 12 numbers.
You want to talk about targets per game. It was the only guy that Rodgers looked at.
No, he looked at Garrett Wilson.
For like 3-yard throws.
They looked at both of them.
It's just, I don't know. He did not look like the Devontae Adams of old, put it that way.
No, but I do want to hammer home your point. If this is like Cooper Kupp is only costing you a bench spot, if it's not changed, if it doesn't look better in the first 3 weeks, move on.
I think you could probably say that about almost anyone, except for a running back, because running back, as we spoke about, is going to be a little bit different, that they could evolve into a role. And they simply just don't need to be that good in order to get touches. Now, Ian, your next guy, big fan, I am, of this guy. He got me this close to the Fantasy Football World Championship last year. But the week that I went all in on him against the Seahawks is the weeks that I won all of the money last year in fantasy. And it is Darius Break the Slayton. Sell me. You don't need to sell me. Sell the people.
This is maybe the cheapest wide receiver that you can just have even an ounce of belief in actually helping your squad this year. Because, I mean, hey, Russell Wilson was the one thing that he still does good on this planet, throwing that moon ball. We saw it to Pickens, Calvin Austin, even Mike Williams once or twice last year. That's Darius Slayton's game. And when you look at the guys he's being priced around, it's all these, random Jags, former day 3 guys, and, just have no investment from their team right now. Slayton got a 3-year, $36 million contract in free agency for a reason. He again has that field stretching ability, complements Malik Neighbors very well. And please, for the love of everything that is holy about football, I refuse to believe Wan'Dale Robinson is about to get 140 targets again with quarterbacks who are actually willing to throw the ball downfield. So again, with Slayton, I just think again, based almost, it's not purely, but a lot on that money going that late in drafts, I do think he is a dart definitely worth throwing. I don't want to be the boy who, completely just cried, oh, he's better in best ball, but I do think that generally Slayton's going to be a bit more of a move over there. But just again, looking at this offense right now, we saw Wan'Dale actually emerge as a viable full PPR guy. I think Slayton can actually give you what Pat was talking about, those more home run style plays where we don't need 10 targets, because if we're getting 5 or 6 to Slayton, they're going to be up the downfield variety where we can hopefully, get some big plays out there from it. So Darius Slayton, a good football player who is priced is like the wide receiver 80. So Jake, I challenge you to have a problem with that price tag.
Jake,
I do.
Let me give you the price tag situation here. You can draft Darius Slayton or Keenan Allen, who's going 7 spots ahead of him, who's not on an NFL team.
Neither. The choice can be neither. Congratulations on the one game he had 20 points, Pat. Kudos to you for that. But the one game. Oh, by the way, how many other games did he have double-digit scores? One. He had 2 double-digit scores the entire year. I chuckled in the background if nobody heard it because you said they gave him 3 years, $36 million. Because they're the stupid-ass Giants is why they did it.
Your fandom is coming through here, Jake. I'm not going to lie to you.
I haven't been a fan.
I know, and now you hate the Giants. So anything the Giants do.
Because they do dumbass shit like this as I'm cursing on your podcast because this is why the Giants fans.
Cooper Kupp, he's not a geriatric. Don't take a guy with some viability, some vigor.
Who's the number 3 on his damn team? Like, no, Wan'Dale Robinson's not going to get 140 targets. You know what the target share for Darius Slayton was last year? Behind Wan'Dale Robinson. You know how many routes he ran last year? Behind Wan'Dale Robinson. You know what the number 3 on the Giants offense?
Last year's draft. We're doing this year's draft. We're
2025,
Jake.
So that's all of a sudden going to change. Darius Slayton's the number 2 this year. No, he's going to still be splitting with Wan'Dale Robinson, even if he's out there just as much. I don't want the number 2 on one of the worst offenses in the league with one of the worst quarterback situations in the league, just because Russell Wilson can chuck it downfield deep to Darius Slayton. Tell me what weeks you're going to play him besides the Seahawks, Pat. Figure out. Tell me when he's actually going to make it into your starting lineup. He's not. He's never going to touch. You want to waste a draft pick? Draft Darius Slayton.
Throw Darius Slayton into my lineup as a bench receiver, trying to win a week rather than throwing some jabroni who I'm guaranteed is going to get 6 points for me.
Kudos to you for holding a guy on your bench for 10 weeks to play him once. Congratulations.
Listen, if someone gets hurt, I want a home run threat coming off my bench. I like Shaheed better. I think Shaheed is the better version of Darius Slayton. Any week, you throw him in, hopefully you get lucky. That's what you're trying to do.
Okay, congratulations. You're going to have to play him 12 times to get one double-digit score, so tell me the benefit of that.
That's not the point, because you're not playing him the 12 weeks. You're chucking him in to try to get the home run.
And how do you know the week? You don't.
Jake, you know the week to play him? The week when you're up in odds with bye weeks or injuries. That's when you play him, and you hope you get the home run week.
Congratulations wasting your bench spot the entire damn year for 1 week.
You're advocating people play fucking Cooper Kupp. Come on now.
Yes, Jake, I am. And I told you to move on after 3 games.
Jake, if you yell louder, I think your point might get across a little bit better.
No, Jake is actively advocating for shittier players to store on your bench rather than a guy with some potential upside here.
No, you're advocating here.
You want strategy.
I'll give you. You're what, the shittiest wide receiver in the league? Advocate for that, to use your word.
Nah, let's be real here. Who had a 20-point game last year? It was, as you said, Darius Slayton. That's what I'm looking for when I'm chucking people in. You
still have nobody has given me the argument of how you get that 1 week to your benefit outside of best ball.
You play him when you're in a pinch,
and you know that's going to happen.
You don't know, Jake. Put it this way. If you knew what was going to happen, you would never lose a fucking week.
Oh, my God. The pinch is the worst argument I've ever heard in my life. You're holding a guy on your bench for a pinch.
He's a boomer bust. Wide receiver 4 being priced is like a wide
receiver. He boomed 7. Once.
Yeah. Now we have Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart. Completely
now we
different
feel like we're in
quarterbacks.
a situation here.
Draft all the Darius Slayton you want.
You don't have to draft really all that much of them. You got him down here at wide receiver number 79.
Remember how I just was like, hey, Jake, I can't hate on you preferring Cooper Kupp in the year 2025 because he's a wide receiver 51, and now I bring up the wide receiver 80, and Jake's trying to have a problem with this. Yes, he's going as the wide receiver 80. I understand it. It's a sleeper show, Jake.
Draft Quentin Johnston and who else? Ty Felton and
I'll give you Quentin Johnston
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. Come on now. What is it? Just you want people who are your age on your team?
No, I want somebody who shows up once a year.
Well, then you should draft Darius Slayton.
Darius Slayton's a good football player. I will not take
Quentin Johnston's actually legitimately a sleeper. I don't know why people aren't drafting him.
Because he can't hold on to anything thrown his way.
That's fine. I mean,
Trey Harris is going to take his job.
You want to talk about like big boom games? What do you have? 5 of them last year? 6 of them?
He had 186 in week 18.
We sit here and act like these boom games end up in your lineup. If you want to bet them and play them in DFS, that's completely fine. That's the point.
I think that we just spoke about how to utilize your bench. And yeah, drafting a whole bunch of receivers and holding on to them. But these are the style of receivers that I want. Guys that if I have to play them, that I know they could potentially score a bunch of points. I'm not looking to grind out.
And you would be fine.
I'm not looking to grind out Wan'Dale Robinson coming off my bench. Like, man.
I never made an argument for Wan'Dale Robinson.
Points.
You would be fine if these players hit 40 to 50% of the time. Cool. We're talking about a guy who played the entire damn season and had one good game.
So
how is that?
Wide receiver sleeper is no wide receiver sleeper, which honestly isn't a bad take.
I don't think that Tommy Cutlets is going to be starting a quarterback here.
Tommy Cutlets doesn't even be on the team. Irrelevant to this whole discussion.
That's a good thing. The worst quarterback in the history of football is no longer throwing him the ball.
I'm sorry. I don't love a terrible wide receiver and a terrible team.
He's not terrible. Yeah, come on.
Pretty good. You earned a 3-year contract. Look at that.
700 yards in 4 or 5 seasons. Bad? No.
As the one.
Yeah, now he's going to get the better coverage because Neighbors is just going to be up there sucking up the. If he's the only.
Yeah, how'd that work for him last year?
Let's see. He had Tommy Cutlets throwing him the ball. You just said that. He's not even on the team anymore. You're making my point for me here.
Go draft all the Darius Slayton you can. Put that on your thumbnail.
I'd say draft him over Cooper Kupp, and people would be like, yeah, of course.
We'll see that. In your comments, dude, pull that one. In your comments, put the vote, Cooper Kupp or Darius Slayton.
I'd like to update my wide receiver sleeper to Mike Evans. How's
Yeah.
that big?
Yeah, Jake's biggest sleeper this year, Jamar Chase.
Wow.
Thanks, Jake.
I thought you guys were both better than the whole straw man throwing out the side names that I never even said for my argument.
I don't know.
Cool
You
story.
sound pretty upset about it, though, Jake.
I
You
don't
and
know.
your terrible Darius Slayton take. He's going to break the Slayton. He's going to break you,
That's
pal.
provocative.
Oh, hold on. Let me change my sleepers to guys I can do cool names with. Hold on a second.
You don't have any cool names. You had one once, and I wouldn't even go down that road. It's going to make people not like you.
I don't remember what it was.
It was Mohammed Snoo.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that's way back. That's a long time
That's
ago.
what I'm talking about. I wouldn't go back to the well again. I was having some problems sleeping. When anyone has little kids, that's probably going to be the case. They'll come up, wake you up in the middle of the night for no real apparent reason. So you're waking up, you're going back to sleep, you're waking up, going back to sleep. It's not the best sleep. I put my Apple Watch on and tried to track my sleep tracker. It was not going well. A lot of that changed once I got a Helix mattress, however, because I was able to customize it to both what I want, what my wife wants, and now we're sleeping throughout the night. The little noises that would just normally wake you up when you're not sleeping well, no longer the case for me. No more back pain either, because I'm actually sleeping on a mattress that is perfect for what my back demands, which is a lot because I have a terrible back. The one that I had before my Helix mattress, I spent a lot of money on it. It was bad after like 2 years. It had like the divot in it from where I sleep. It was unflippable. It was a horrendous waste of money. Not only is the Helix mattress I have now way better, it was also significantly cheaper. And it just showed up to my door in a box. Very easy to get onto my bed frame and just start using right away. So you can have all your problems solved with a Helix mattress as well. So you can go to helixsleep.com/mayo for 27% off site-wide. That is exclusive to listeners of the Pat Mayo Experience. That's helixsleep.com/mayo for 27% off site-wide. Make sure to enter my show name after checkout so they know that I sent you. helixsleep.com/mayo. Feeling stuck in your daily wellness routine? When you're not alone. Our friends at Cornbread Hemp, they heard you. Their organic CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether it's stress and poor sleep or just needing a moment to unwind. Personally, I started taking them before a round of golf because I've been dealing with this tennis elbow issue. It's starting to go away, but it tightens up on me throughout the course of the round. So just when I pop a Cornbread Hemp CBD gummy, all of a sudden loosen right up, playing a lot better. Highly recommended if your muscles seize up or get tight during a round of golf. CBD might be just what you need to level up your daily routine. Cornbread Hemp uses only the best parts of hemp plant, the flower, for purest and the most potent CBD. No fillers, no junk, just full spectrum goodness. Right now, they're offering 30% off your first order. So go to cornbreadhemp.com/PatMayo and use code PatMayo at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/PatMayo with code PatMayo to get 30% off your first order. Next one for you, a much better one. Someone I actually do like more than Darius Slayton. Jayden Higgins is your next sleeper. Do you think that he ends up better than Christian Kirk here with the Texans?
Well, he's going to be Darius Slayton on this team, so obviously. I mean, he's just going to be the...
That sounds great. Let's draft him.
Doesn't it? Sounds terrific. All the Darius Slaytons in the world. Look, Jayden Higgins, as somebody that I thought could be very much like Marvin Jones, and then Dane Brugler for the Athletic actually comped Jayden Higgins to Nico Collins on this team, which I thought was pretty aggressive. I'm not coming for Dane. That's how positively people have been speaking of Jayden Higgins. And I see some people are like, well, Christian Kirk, when healthy, he's been great. And like, yeah, Christian Kirk, I will acknowledge Christian Kirk, when healthy, is actually very productive. But if you're telling me, do I get a choice between Nico Collins or Christian Kirk on my team as my two? I don't care that it replicates the talent. I'm taking a second Nico Collins, even if he's only Marvin Jones. I'll take Marvin Jones over Christian Kirk at this stance. And that Christian Kirk is going to be working on a slot. I think Jaylen Noel potentially could be a threat to his job at some point. But that's the thing is Jaylen Noel, coming from the same school as Higgins, is a threat to Kirk, not to Higgins. Higgins can step outside and get 110, 120 targets as the clear number two. And why I take that second path with it is CJ Stroud, much better with and without, like with Nico Collins and then without Nico Collins, than any factor of the Stephon Diggs, Tank Dells, and all the rest of the world in this team, because he's better with that type of wide receiver. Tank Dell was fun for them, but if you're trying to replicate Tank Dell too, you're not going to do it with Christian Kirk. You're not going to get the downfield from Christian Kirk. Higgins brings more of that. And I'm not saying Higgins is anywhere near Tank Dell, but if you're looking for what things that work with CJ Stroud's style in this offense, it's the Higgins talent, not the Kirk and Noel.
Dell has no chance of playing this year, right?
0.
Doesn't look like it. Are we really giving Dell that? I mean, you said Higgins has no chance of being anywhere near Tank Dell. How good do we think Tank Dell is?
No,
He was little.
Tank Dell style. They're completely different players, is my point. I said Higgins can be the downfield threat. I was saying the style. He's not going to ever be. They're not 1-for-1 even close. They're two completely different players, size-wise alone. Like, these are not the same type of wide receivers, was my point.
I'm cool with Higgins. I will say, generally, when I've been in this range of the draft with the Higgins and the Cooper Kupps and the Michael Pittmans of the world, that's about when I'm kind of hoping I already have my wide receivers filled up. So, yeah, with Higgins, I mean, he does have an opportunity to be the number 2 in this offense. Hopefully, CJ Stroud is still good. I mean, it's just, we were talking about, like, all right, is Seattle really going to take this step forward with Kubiak and stuff? I'm kind of dubious of Houston as well, because Bobby Slowick went from being someone getting head coaching jobs to all of a sudden last year, it was just all on Bobby, and some of the stuff, all the sexy, pre-snap things, play action and pre-snap shift in motion. I expect to look at Houston last year and be like, oh my God, they must be near the bottom of the league. They really weren't, man. So at some point, you got to point these fingers at the Jims and Joes and not always the X's and O's. And I do think, yes, they cycled away some of the offensive linemen, but based on everything we know and can try to quantify about these linemen, none of them coming in are exactly any better. So, man, Stroud last year, QB 28 in fantasy points per game. Personally, I think this passing game is going to be Nico Collins and everyone else. I mean, Jake, couldn't you say that Jaylen Noel is actually the better prospect? I know that he's not going to be playing the outside like Higgins, but man, I do wonder if this could be one of these rare situations where even Mechie's there too. We almost see more of a rotation between wide receivers 2 through 4.
So to answer your question, no. I definitively think Higgins is better than Noel. That's being said, I'm not 100% right about rookies ever. I never will be. Even as somebody that I like to laud as amazing as he is, Emory Hunt, I think is one of the best in the world. He's not 100% right, but I think definitively talent-wise, I would take Higgins before Noel. I think Noel potentially doesn't even get past Kirk in his rookie season, although I do like Noel as a talent. I just think that Kirk is the threat to hold him back. I think Mechie at this point would be a fun story given his career and what happened to him, but I don't think Mechie's even a factor at this point.
Canadian.
Hey.
So that's probably not good for his future prospects.
Shout out Chase Claypool, Maple Jordan.
Yeah, Maple Jordan, that 1 year. He'll always have that 1 year. He's still getting contracts because of that 1 year.
Hey, what did he score, like 13 touchdowns? Come on.
Yeah, just chuck it up to him. He'll come down and get it. I'm going to throw out a guy in the same range. Why is Cedric Tillman not being drafted higher? Am I just enamored with him as him actually being good? And people are that scared about one of the Browns' 18 quarterbacks? Like, all of these quarterbacks are going to be better than Deshaun Watson. I think people forget that.
Yeah. Bar's not high.
Kenny Pickett? I don't think it'll be.
You don't think that Kenny Pickett would be better than last year's Deshaun Watson?
No, I don't think Kenny Pickett's an NFL quarterback at all.
Neither is Deshaun Watson. He was actively just
I don't disagree with that part. But to answer your question, it comes down to a healthy Njoku as the number 2, and it's the volume. Is what's the question of where's the volume going to come from right now being Joe Flacco, and I think everybody assumes is going to either turn to Pickett, Gabriel, or Sanders at some point. Hell, 2 of them might play this season. We might see 3 different quarterbacks. We might see all 4. It's just a question of this offense, which is also just coming off, and I think a lot of people missed this last year. The Browns are very pass-happy last year. They drafted Judkins. They drafted Sampson, too, so there's a clear tell that they're going to move back to at least a balanced offense, if not run-heavy. So I think that's just the question, is it going to be anybody after Judy and Njoku, and I think that's why.
When you do start going down the wide receiver, just ADP, and you kind of look at, okay, who is actually projected for potentially 100-plus targets, that is where we do see Tillman stand out. And to his credit, it's a hilarious sample size to be like, well, from week 7 through 11 last year, this guy was a legit top 10 receiver. But that's after Amari Cooper got traded, and it's before Tillman had the season-ending concussion. So, man, when he was out there, wide receiver 15, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 11, then had a wide receiver 50 performance.
Would you take him before Slayton, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would.
But there's this same archetype. Yeah, everyone's taking Tillman freaking 60 picks ahead of Slayton, Jake. All right. It's not the flex you think it is to be hating on pick 192.
I'd take him ahead of Cooper Kupp and Higgins. And he's going
Tillman?
after both those guys.
Tillman?
Yeah, I would take Christian Kirk
asking
ahead
for
of both those
clarification.
guys too. And Christian Kirk is going
I would-
after
I would
both
ta-
those guys.
I would take Higgins before him just because I don't think there's a path to the same kind of volume. Unless Njoku gets hurt again.
I think price point considered, Slayton's a better pick than Tillman because we actually have quarterbacks with a pulse in New York potentially.
And that's where we disagree. You're not going to get me to come around on Slayton.
I watch Twitter clips of Shadur Sanders just throwing darts all over the field.
Was that before or after he was going 120 miles an hour?
Hey, listen, if he can do that, listen, he's just trying to get to the training facility faster to practice more.
LeBron
Sorry,
went over
you don't want him to
100
be
and
at the
everyone loved
facility.
it. I will not take the Shador slander. Come on, driving fast is fun. Just wear a seatbelt.
Well, I like Tillman, but you like Njoku, Ian?
Oh, 100%, man. We're talking about the reigning, defending tight end 5 back-to-back seasons. And unlike Tillman, where we do have to have some level of concern where, okay, who is going to be giving him the ball downfield? Njoku, especially in this Kevin Stefanski offense, is used very similarly to guys like Evan Ingram, where he's more or less the check down option, very low ADOT. And hey, remember the old adage, a rookie quarterback's best friend is their tight end. Also think we could have that going for us as well. So with Njoku's role, I think it's more protected than most, again, given the lower ADOT and just his yak ability and honestly just what we've seen him also do down the field. I do think he's talented. He's freaking given us the numbers these last few years. And where's the target competition? All right. Jerry Jeudy, yes, but even Jeudy, man, down the stretch, a lot of that was coming from Tillman being out, from obviously Cooper being gone, and even the Njoku being out as well. I mean, there were some Wandale-esque performances from Jeudy down the stretch. That Dolphins game, he had like 19 targets for 80 or 90 yards or something ridiculous like that. So yes, they did bring in Harold Fannin Jr., obviously went bonkers at Bowling Green and everything, but I do think he's more so this big slot, not someone who's exactly going to be taking away those sorts of routes from Dave and Njoku. So ever since Austin Hooper, who got a huge contract, basically after his time in Atlanta, ever since Hooper left town, it has been the Dave and Njoku show. I don't see why it's going to change this year.
Where's he going at tight end?
11 or 12, right in that borderline.
As someone who hates David Njoku, that does seem a bit low. Yeah, he's going after Ingram, Hawkinson, and Andrews in that Tyler Warren range. I would rather have Njoku over Warren year one at least.
No question.
Dallas Goedert's still going really high too. He seems like he might be kind of washed.
And Dallas
Always
Goedert went on
dealing
the
with
field
something.
has been productive. It's just he just continues to produce. But you're not getting more than, and I'm fine with what I might be your point here. I don't know. I'm going to speak for you. You can tell me. But like, I'd rather somebody that could potentially be top 5 because Dallas Goedert's just not going to be top 5. Dallas Goedert, if you want tight end 9 to 11, that's what you're going to get every single year.
Yeah, and that's his upside at this point. Yeah, so I'm with you on that I'd rather have shoot for the moon with Njoku. And listen, the last time that we saw Njoku, if Flacco wins this starting job, which who knows, and it is him
As of
out
today.
there week 1, he loves David Njoku.
We saw 5 games with them together, and he averaged 18.6 PPR points per game. So, again, Jameis, it would be amazing if we could see him walk through those doors and go back to Cleveland. Joe Flacco might be the next best thing we could hope for.
Yeah, but Jameis might just be peppering Darius Slayton with the ball over and over.
There we go. There we go.
That's
All
what we're
comes
looking
back.
for. Ricky Bullets is the man on your list, Jake. He is your next sleeper. I was actually surprised to see him being drafted so low. I thought just inherently he would be higher. What is the status of Ayuk for week 1?
Super questionable. And then there's talk that he could even start the season on PUP. I mean, that just whether he's out there or not, or when they try to hold things off because he could be back before the end of September, that's fine and cool. But what is he going to be at that point? Is he going to be near 100%? So everybody's obviously focused on Jennings because of what Jennings did last year. Jennings is also a wide receiver 3, and that's coming from somebody who like pushed for him hard in my waiver column. And I'm saying like, I think that Jennings could break out a little bit, but if you're looking for the real breakout potential here, I think Pearsall is the more interesting one. And it's funny that we bring up Slayton is that pre-draft, they actually included 2 Giants in saying that he's kind of a mix of Slayton and Sterling Shepard because he can do both of their games. And then if you're telling me you get Sterling Shepard mixed with Darius Slayton, I think most people in the world would say, wow, that's a really nice wide receiver that I would take on the number 2 in many teams. And to go back to the conversation we were having is that to bring in the Deebo Samuel to this is that if Ayuk never plays again, Jennings and Pearsall will be out there. But if Ayuk returns, I think there's a bigger threat that Jennings hits the bench as the 3rd, not obviously completely on the bench, but he gets kicked behind Pearsall because Jennings doesn't do everything that Deebo did to this game. Now, Pearsall does it. I'm not saying Pearsall's even running out of the backfield. I'm just talking about how they're used in the offense, where they're used on the offense, the kind of routes that they're running alongside each other. And I just think that Jennings with Ayuk is the fix But if Ayuk returns, that's my bigger concern here, is that I think Pearsall might be the one that stays out there as the number 2 alongside Ayuk, because I think Pearsall, people forgot because you made the joke about the shot last year and missed most of the season until the end. But you saw those flashes that had everybody excited as the rookie he could have been last year. And I think that Pearsall has similar ceiling to Jennings as a top 30 wide receiver, but less of a threat if Ayuk returns, in my opinion.
Are you convinced, Ian?
Not really. It's just one of these weird things where we can look at Pearsall and say, oh, man, look at the Lions game. That's who he is. But then when he sucks the rest of the year, it's like, well, he got shot. What do you want from the guy? So it's just a tough evaluation, man. 0 missed tackles forced last year. So congrats on tying him, Pat. So, just, again, 2 very elusive guys out here.
I've been working hard.
And maybe it was just because he got shot. It's a very good excuse. Okay. We saw it with Brian Robinson and everything. So I don't want to become the hater of, men who have, literally taken a bullet over the past 12 months. But that's just where I have a tough time going through it. He comes off the IR. He has a long touchdown, I think, against the Buccaneers first or second week. He goes 3 straight weeks playing a snap, a route rate. He was up near 70%, like a full-time role. All you could ask for, 21 yards in a 3-week stretch. Good job going off against the Lions. Are we giving Diami Brown all of his flowers for doing the same thing in the playoffs? Not really. So I would just say, it's the confidence and faith in the offense. But man, I've seen the stop and go hitch, whatever you call that route, come back. Like, he put a couple good routes on film, don't get me wrong. And I think it's just more of a belief in Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, I guess, would be why I would be in on Pearsall. But he was an older prospect from the beginning. I wasn't overly impressed with what he put on film. I have a hard time, being too excited about, again, 1 or 2 solid performances later in the year. So we'll see what happens. But man, Brandon Ayuk, if he can just somehow be healthy, which that's the unfortunate part, I don't think he's necessarily going to be until the second half of the year, far and away the best option. That said, Jake, I think the answer to Ayuk, Pearsall, or Jennings, it's George Kittle. Man, this dude's going to be
we
the
already
number
agree
one
on
pass
that.
catcher. Yeah.
Where do you guys have Kittle ranked? 1?
I actually have him in the 3rd, but in the tier 1. I would take any of the 3. I think the biggest issue is that I would still take Bowers. I would still take McBride. But the gap between those 3 is similar to the conversation we were having on the other show. It's similar to at running back, is the gap needs to be neck and neck and neck, and not gap. Like, Bowers is going a full round in front of McBride, who's going 2 rounds in front of Kittle. I will have so many shares of Kittle at this point. Ian and I have been lockstep on the whole George Kittle this entire offseason.
That's too high. That's too high for Brock Bowers, by the way, in comparison, even just to McBride. What really distinguishes anything different between them? Except for, I believe that McBride gets more work.
Bowers did it as a rookie. So, it was an incredible
it's the rookie.
Year, but
Geno Smith now. It's the excitement of also being young, and he could be the new Travis Kelce, and putting up top 10 wide receiver numbers.
It's not against I'm cool with people having Bowers ahead of McBride. I actually do have McBride ranked ahead of Bowers straight up even, but I wouldn't call anyone crazy for having the inverse. The problem is Bowers, you're legit, taking him over Lad McConkey, AJ Brown, Josh Jacobs, whereas McBride, I think there actually is a decent tier drop off after the top 10 running backs, the top 11 wide receivers. That's where McBride goes. And, I'm willing to kind of sprinkle him in there. Bowers, again, starting to move down a little bit, but that's been my issue there.
2 more from each year, 1 more apiece. 2 more sleepers, and we'll go through these quickly. You have Drake Maye. Ian, he is going as quarterback number 16. That feels right to me in a weird way, because I think if the Patriots are better, it makes him as a worse fantasy quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not sure. We got so much of the scramble production. We legit saw Drake Maye put up the same scramble numbers as Lamar Jackson last year. Drake Maye led the NFL in yards per carry. This guy can freaking scoot out there. And I do think if we're trying to find this year's late round Konami code quarterback, if you want to say it's just Justin Fields, that's fine. I didn't think he was, going late enough to be considered an actual sleeper. But Fields is my most drafted quarterback of the offseason. So if you want to do that, fine. But otherwise, I do think Drake Maye, again, fits this archetype that we're looking for. Give Drake Maye the benefit of the doubt. And if you just remove, a couple of those games where he came in very late for Jacoby Brissett, basically just his full starts, he averaged north of 220 passing yards and 35 rushing yards per game. The only quarterbacks to do that in the Super Bowl era, guys. Again, giving Drake Maye the benefit of the doubt here. Same thing with Jaden Daniels last year. Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Mike Vick, Dante Culpepper, Randall Cunningham, Kyler Murray, RG3, Russell Wilson, Donovan McNabb, and even Steve Young. So again, with Drake Maye, I know we have Josh McDaniels coming in, but go back and watch some of that Cam Newton film from 2020. 2020. McDaniels was actually very creative in the ways he was able to use Cam as a runner. So you got some improvements with Stephon Diggs and company. Maybe it is going to be a bit more of a conservative offense, and that would be the drawback. But QB 16, man, again, you don't see quarterbacks. It's something like 28 of 31 quarterbacks who have rushed the ball at least 100 times since 2014 finished in the top 12. So if Drake Maye, man, can just go out there, run around, and stay healthy, history tells us he's going to be a QB1.
I think I would rather have him over, everyone's all in on Fields. I just don't like Fields. I'd rather have him than Fields, Herbert, Dak, Caleb Williams, Goff, probably Kyler Murray. I probably have him right on par with Bo Nix, Jake, because I think that what you're looking for them to do is exactly similar.
I think that's a fair argument. I think there's more rushing upside here. I've done this show for you with how many years now, but I always reference Daniel Jones ran for 700 yards and 7 touchdowns and finishes a QB1, not even throwing a touchdown per game. Didn't even throw a touchdown per game that year because you just run in fantasy, and that's what matters. I was actually about 50-50 on the names you listed at quarterback, but the bigger thing I will say here is I go everywhere from QB6 Baker Mayfield all the way down to QB14 in one giant tier, including Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Justin Fields, Drake Maye, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray. Like, all those names are in there. Golf isn't in there for me. Herbert's not in there for me because they have to do so much of it with their arms. But your point being here and what Ian was saying is, like, you just get the rushing upside, even if it's 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, which Ian pointed out can easily eclipse that, can do Daniel Jones and then some on the floor, on the ground, is that you're talking about potential top 10 just being a mediocre passer. So that's why I have him in this same group of all those quarterbacks, which you can honestly say have better histories or even better situations, but like they're all set because outside of Fields, I don't think anybody has Drake Maye's rushing upside. I think it's more than Bo Nix's.
Maybe so. We're running out of time. And you teased it a bunch on the running back ranking show. You can always catch Jake's updated rankings for all positions at theathletic.com if you're looking for them. But you said you wanted to clear out for Jordan Mason. The floor is yours.
It's Jordan Mason is my top sleeper of this list of 4 today, mostly because first of all, if something happens to Aaron Jones, boom, Jordan Mason to the moon. People will be super excited about that. But I say to the moon because some of it's been referenced before, and Ian brought it up on that show, and deservedly so. Like, I'm not going to be like, haha, he made a bad point. Like, it wasn't a bad point. It was a negative point against Mason. It's like, we're just assuming he's coming from Shanahan and everything's going to be great. Well, guess what? He's going to Kevin O'Connell. And then Shanahan, like, a lot of similarities, a lot of making the best of their talents on offense. Kevin O'Connell proving to be one of the best in the game at designing offenses to take the maximum value of their players. If everybody thinks that J.J. McCarthy is going to get a boost and could be anything like the draft capital they gave him because he's with O'Connell and he can maximize things, then why is Mason going from Shanahan to O'Connell and all of a sudden like, it might not be as good? I think it's going to be just as good, and potentially why I bring him up is I don't think it's potentially only if Aaron Jones gets hurt. I could see, given Aaron Jones over his career, who has been a timeshare, and I'm talking 50-50 timeshare, but he's been in a timeshare more often than not, and he's had some huge seasons, but a lot of those huge seasons came on touchdown equity. And what's the one thing we know about that was brought up on that other show we were talking about with the running backs is the Vikings couldn't do. They could not get in the damn end zone with the running backs last year. Nobody could, including Aaron Jones, who outside of those 2 seasons has struggled somewhat with that. And they've already talked up Jordan Mason, as Ian brought up on that show, as the goal line option. So I'm saying all that to say is that maybe this is a reverse Steelers where, instead of Warren being the back half and the Jones of this situation, that's the lead in the 55-45 split. And Mason ends up having standalone value as an RB3, somewhat touchdown reliant. And then what if Jordan Mason continues to look anything like he did with the 49ers now on the Vikings, and we just see them peel more off of Aaron Jones? I know the contract is there, but there's not a ton of guaranteed left in what they've already given him because a lot of it was from the front-loaded side of things. I'm not saying they're immediately going to turn away from Aaron Jones this year, but I think you can see the door already creak open, and that given performance or injury, you can see Jordan Mason potentially be in the second half of the league, kind of like an RB2 down the stretch.
Agree or disagree, Ian?
I agree. I do think this is honestly one of the sneaky backfields where you talk about, who could actually enable multiple top 24 running backs in PPR points per game. The Lions would probably be our top guess with that, but don't sleep on the Vikings doing that because unlike Houston, unlike Seattle, I think they actually did make the sort of upgrades to their offensive line to believe that we could see, a more dominant unit up front. Threw a lot of money at a couple guys from the Colts who obviously been paving the way for Jonathan Taylor over the years. Also drafted an Ohio State Buckeye Donovan Jackson in round 1. So again, I don't think Aaron Jones is going away, but we did hear KOC, to Jake's point, say that he does believe to get the most out of Jonesy, it's more of a 1A, 1B situation. Clearly, Mason's being set up for that. I do wonder if, J.J. McCarthy doesn't exactly hit the ground running, and all of a sudden we have Mason just teetering around 200, 210 touches in a scoring offense that isn't all that great. So there is a scenario where both guys, stay healthy, and we kind of do get last year's version of the Steelers in not a good way. So I don't think, it's exactly a home run or anything, but hey, guys going outside the top 30 running backs for a reason. If we do see, some of these home drafts, Yahoo, ESPN especially, where Mason's going next to the more pure handcuffs, though, the Tyler Algiers, Trey Bensons of the world, give me Mason over those guys 8 days of the week.
That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. You put your favorite sleeper in the comment section to get into a draw with that driver. If you need to see more of Ian's work and check out his updated rankings, his full sleeper list, what you're going to want to do is go to fantasylife.com. Ditto with Jake. You go to theathletic.com. He's got his projections, which you can change. If you really like Darius Slayton, you can go middle around with Jake's projections over at The Athletic, and that'll be fine. You can get him up the list a little bit, and especially ahead of Cooper Kupp. That's what I will be doing. But you just need to sub to Mayo Media Network, and on the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast, you can even put in a 5-star review and your sleeper in there for more balance into that driver draw if you're really looking for it. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!